So getting straight into it, I have my fabric unfold and the measurement of this is my round tie measurement divided by 2 plus at least 2 inches extra allowance. So you have to fold just according to your own measurement. So this is about 14.5 inches unfold. And then at the bottom here, I've made some markings and this is for my bending allowance at the bottom. The standard is 2 inches. I'm going to be taking off this extra inch here at the end of the day. Now getting straight into it, I'm just going to be taking the length of these pants trousers and the full length of the trouser is 45 inches. However, this trouser is going to be having a 1.5 inches band. So I'm going to start to mark my point here on the 1.5 inch mark. So this 1.5 inch is going to be my starting point. From that point, which is now my waistline, I'm going to be coming down for my waist to my hip measurement. And this is going to be 8.5 inches for me. So because this is a high waist palazzo trouser, okay, I will just totally ignore the 1.5 inch when marking my hip depth. From the hip measurement, I'm going to be coming down 2 inches to get my crotch line. For a plus size, you can come down by probably 2.5 or 3 inches. So I'm just indicating this for easy reference. The next point now to indicate is my waist to my knee line. So my waist to my knee line is 20 inches. And on this point, kindly note that I have my tape measure on the 1.5 inch mark that I drew out. So I'm also indicating this as my knee line. On the hip line, I'm going to be dividing my hip measurement by 4. My hip measurement is 39 inches divided by 4 is 9¾ I'm going to be adding 1 inch extra for stitching allowance. So in total, I'm going to be marking 10¾ I'm also going to be marking this 10¾ on the waistline as well. And I'm also going to be marking this 10¾ on the crotch line. And after this, I will square out the line. On the crotch line, I'm going to be taking my round tie measurement divided by 2 plus at least 1 inch for stitching allowance. My round tie measurement is 12 inches. That's divided by 2 is 12 inches plus 1 inch stitching allowance. So I'm marking 13 inches at this point. So just right about here, I'm going to be coming up by 1 inch, and this is to enable me get a perfect crotch curve. So you don't want it too deep and you don't want it too high. So now the next thing I'm going to be working on is on the waistline. So I'm also indicating this as my waistline. I'm going to be taking right on this point my round waist measurement divided by 4, which is 7¼ plus 1 inch for stitching allowance. So in total, I'll be marking 8¼ I'm now going to be connecting this point to the hip line. Now on the knee line, for this palazzo trouser, I don't want it too tapered and I don't want it too palazzo-ish at the same time. I just want it a little bit, moderate. So I need to get my grain line, and in getting that, whatever we have on our crotch line, for me, I have 13.5 inches. So whatever I have on this line, I'm just going to be dividing it by 2. And it's going to give me, so whatever it gives you or whatever it gives, just mark it. So for me, it gives me 6¾ okay. So I'm going to get this 6¾ and also mark it on my knee line. So whatever you have on your own crotch line, it might be different from what I have here. Just mark it, and that will be your grain line. So I'm also taking this 6 3/4 to the bottom of my palazzo trouser as well, and all the way down to the seam allowance at the bottom. On the knee line, my actual round knee measurement is 20 inches, but this is for a fitted pant. Okay, and if I divide it by 2, that will give me 10 inches, but this will be too fitted. So instead of sharing that 10 inches between both sides, which will be 5 inch 5 inch, I'm going to add an extra inch to it so that it's not too fitted. So instead of marking 5 inches, I'm going to be adding 1 inch extra, which will make it 6 inches. So I'm going to mark 6 inches on this point and 6 inches on the other side. So this is 6 inches here and also 6 inches here. So in total, at the end of the day, my rounding measurement will be 24 inches instead of 20 inches. So I'm also going to mark that 6 inches at the bottom. So now I'm just going to connect this line and this line. And this is what we have for our front piece. But before that, a little manipulation at the waistline. At this point, I'm just going to be coming down by 1/2 inch, and this is to reduce any waist bulge at this point. So I'll connect it from this line right here to the 1/2 inch that I came down by. And then we can proceed to cutting, of course. So this is what I have. I took one of my front pieces and placed it on a fold of fabric. And the fold of this fabric is the total of what you have on your crotch line plus at least 4 inches. And I'm going to be sharing that 4 inches, 2 inches towards this crotch extension and 2 inches towards the hip line. So for a plus size, you might do 3 to 2 inches. I'm just extending all of the lines onto my back fabric. So to get the crotch depth for the back piece, I'm going to be coming down 0.5 inch from the original crotch depth of the front fabric. So I'm marking this with a different color of chalk so that it's visible and we can differentiate it. So now we're going to be working on the butt rise for the back fabric. Okay, so I'm just going to be coming up 1 inch from this point right here. So some people you can use 1.5, you can use 2 inches, 2.5. It just depends on how high your butt is. So from this point, I'm also going to be coming in by 2 inches as well. So I went up by 1 inch and I came in by 2 inches. So this is what we're working with for the back piece. So I came in by 2 inches, and at this point, I'm going to be coming out by 2 inches as well. and then I'll just connect the line so that it's visible. So I'm marking the 2-inch points that I came out by so that you can see, and I'll connect from this point to this point. On the hip line, I'm going to be coming out by 2 inches. On the knee line, I'm going to be coming out by 1.5 inches. And at the bottom here, I'm going to be coming out by 1 inch only all the way to the seam. I'll connect this now. After connecting, this is what I have. Working on the crotch extension for the back right now, I'm just going to be coming out by 2 inches from the point where I came down by 0.5 inch. So for a plus size, your extension can be 2.5 inches or even 3 inches. So I'm just going to flip the front fabric over so that we can see what we have to do for the back piece. So now we want to create a crotch curve for our back fabric, and I'm going to be connecting it this way up to this point, just like I'm doing. Please note where I'm connecting it to. As you can see, I'm not connecting it to the extension. I'm actually connecting it to here. Now I will connect from this point to my knee line. And now we can proceed to cutting as we're done with drafting our back pattern. Now after cutting, this is what I have. I'm now going to take this to the sewing machine and run a stitch using 0.5 inch. I will do that for this piece and I will do that for the other piece. I've stitched down, and this is actually the right side, the front side, and this is the back side. So I'm opening this up and I'm getting the other piece, and I want to match them right sides facing each other. So I'll just ensure that they match properly. And on the crotch line for the front piece, I'm going to just take to the sewing machine and run a stitch of 0.5 inch. After holding this down on the crotch line for the two front pieces, I'm now going to be taking all my horizontal measurements from this point. At the waistline, I'm taking half of my waistline measurement. My waistline measurement is 29 inches. Half of that is 14.5. So I'll make a mark on 14.5 inches right here. The next measurement we want to take is our hip. So I'm going to be taking half of my hip circumference. My hip circumference is 39 inches. Half of that is 19.5 inches. So I just want to make sure the lines are visible here. That's why I'm marking them and remarking them. And then on this point, I will mark 19.5 inches. So now I'm just going to connect the lines like this all the way to 0.5 inch at the crotch. I'll take this to the sewing machine and stitch. After stitching, this is what it looks like. The next thing to do is to open up our pant trousers, of course, right sides facing each other as well. And then I'm going to get the seams on both sides of the crotch. Make sure that the seams are opened. You might want to press it at this point, like give it a good press at this point. Open them up. You may need a needle to hold this together. And then I'm going to take this to my sewing machine and I will run a stitch using 0.5 inch. And I will also run a stitch using 0.5 inch at this point. After stitching, this is what I have. I'm going to be attaching my zipper on this side of the trouser. Okay, so I'm just going to loosen this up until the point where I want my zipper to start from before I attach my band. And then of course, hem the bottom of the trouser. So here I have attached my band. As you can see, it's well laid down. A detailed tutorial on how to attach a snatched waistband will come up just about here. You can click the link to view this. And then I also attached my zipper. And I also serged the seam and I held it down with a hem gum. So thank you guys so much for watching. That's it for our palazzo pant trousers. Please don't forget to share, like, and subscribe. Till my next video. Bye bye.